pressing on, and then hopefully it'll be a good time, and we'll get some good experience with people. So that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah. And this is a subject that can go a lot of different ways depending on how people relate to it. If people have been hurt, if people have hurt other people. I think I've done a little of everything. I don't bully people online, so I know I haven't done that part. But so hopefully people will relate to this topic, because it's really relative, especially in this day and age. There's a lot of people of different ages that are using social media. So it's not like it's the millennials or it's the people like me, the baby boomers. It's people, a lot of different levels of society that's using social media. So we want to try to help them get through, with some sort of success. And that's why we're doing this today. I'm hoping, like I said, I'm hoping the word gets out, and we do good with this topic. Next week's more fun. It's about entertainment, and it'll be a little different topic than this. Probably not as serious as this, although maybe for some people they'll relate to some things I'm saying on different sides of certain issues as we talk about how entertainment influences us. So that's next week, and but this week could get sensitive for people because, like I said, people have been hurt online a lot, and there's a lot of reasons, and hopefully I've captured at least 2/3 of those reasons, and then they'll share the other third for me. I won't have to worry about catching every possible reason that you're frustrated with social media, and then somebody else will fill in those gaps for me that I've missed. I've tried to be thorough. I've done a lot of back investigating, and hopefully we'll do okay today, and we'll catch some things up, catch some people up on things that they really need, and then they'll catch me up on the things I need. It's supposed to be interactive. It's not supposed to be a podcast as it's evolved into. That's why I'm trying to do better at watching the Facebook Live side where people are watching there, or they make comments to me with little typing, and I just saw somebody make a crying face. So we're trying to do better at that. So whereas the first week I couldn't relate to both screens. I had people on both screens, so I'll try to acknowledge you as you speak. So if you have something to offer about anything I'm saying, just shout it out on either Facebook Live or if you're on Zoom with me. So, all right. So this week's overcoming the obstacles of social media. As you know, the online community, when things go wrong, they go wrong really quickly. It can be really bad. I think that, and as a way of introduction, I think the first step in understanding how to deal with this conflict online and with your friends, with your family, is how to identify how the friction happened, what's the cause, and that could be a real challenge if it's with both your current friends that are local, and ironically, people are in schools or in universities, on jobs, using instant messenger. We use Skype at work, believe it or not, at our desks. It's a Skype messenger. And, the person's like only 20 feet away from me. So sometimes we use that covertly if we want to talk about something, communicate something in a meeting. Other times we do it from, we just try to get somebody's attention. So it's hard when people are local, and it's even more difficult when people are distant, especially friends or family are distant, because your relationships aren't as strong because you don't see each other in person as much. So conflict arises a lot of times due to personality conflict. So even though, and I saw Kathy Veazey came up, so even though we were raised together, we went to school from childhood, there's probably maybe some different things in our personality, and sometimes conflicts arise from that. Sometimes it's related to common difficulties, with these tools. I'm trying to use two different mediums here, and some people are really good at using online tools, and then maybe somebody isn't as good. So So then the other person gets frustrated because you're not answering as quickly, and then and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, your delay makes them interpret things. Your equipment isn't as fast, so then they start wondering, oh my word, did I upset people? So sometimes it's how somebody else is trying to achieve goals. So if I'm a pushy person and I have goals that I have an agenda I want to press forward, and I will manipulate you into next week to get my goals, right? So that really upsets people, when you're doing that. But I think this is the most common reason that I'm going to give you, that it's the person's perception of what you just posted. It's their perception. It's not really what you just posted. It's their perception. And I think that's the biggest challenge in social media, because you could write one word and they interpret it like to all kinds of crazy levels. And online conflicts become even more complex if, say, you and I were sitting in the same room, because you can't read body language, you can't read facial things, you can't read anything. So that perception becomes huge, and then you see your relationship begins to derail really quickly, and it could be over something like trivial, or it could be something really important. So we want to keep in mind as we go through this that, and I apologize in advance if I touch a nerve. I don't mean to do that. I didn't mean to bring something up that's going to hurt your feelings. But what I hope to do is have a healthy discussion on how you can achieve a better success in your relationships online, because we're talking about relationships, and then there's other things I think you can be using online even more effective with. You can be doing more things with it. So let's pray real quick and then we're going. God, I thank you for this time. I thank you for the opportunity to spend time, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, 5 minutes, either online with people or with them in person. Always better to be in person. Always better to look people in the eye. Always better to make contact, God. But I thank you for this medium, that it affords us an opportunity to be together no matter where we are, no matter how far our friends are, whether somebody's a shut-in or somebody's in another state. We thank you for the opportunity, and this medium's awesome. Help us to have a healthy discussion tonight, and just bless it, I pray. In your name we ask it. Amen. So you and a friend may have expectations. So the first thing I want to talk about is expectations-related causes of conflict. So you guys have expectations that aren't being met, or they don't match up with the other person's expectation. So what can happen? How does that happen? So you each have an expectation, right? And they're not being met. Or maybe your expectation is the same. So we have differing principles and mismatched values. So again, this is not a place where I want to correct your values. I'm not here to correct your principles even. I'm just helping you acknowledge the fact that we don't display those, right? We don't display these principles, yet we attract a contention. So we don't even tell people what our principles might be yet, but as a result of what's going on inside of us, what we're thinking and how we say things, these principles and these mismatched values cause conflict, and it comes out, and it happens. Second to that is diversity of perspectives. It's okay to have diversity amongst your friends. It's okay even to have diversity amongst your family, but it does result in clashing. But it's okay. You need to start accepting that you may not, even if you go to church like I do, that person around the other side of the aisle may not even have the same political principles that you have. It's okay. That's not why you're called to be there, right? It's okay. But understand that there is a diversity of perspectives that you are going to be having while you're interacting on this medium. But you can't get to the bottom of it because you're typing these little one-word clippy answers, these little quips, these little catchy, witty sayings, right? You might spend an hour trying to think of those, or you may take minutes. There's a lack of focus. It's your conversations are wandering aimlessly. You were talking about one thing, and the next thing you know, you don't even know what you're talking about. I'm from New Jersey. I have a tendency to wander. If you're from New England, you know it. People in New Jersey, we do this all the time. We're good at it. We're okay. We're okay wandering all over the place. We're all right. People from other states, can we get to the point? Can we stay on the topic? Well, I was on the topic. I'm getting back to that. So the fact is, for other people, that's a lack of focus. And then they get angry and they get frustrated and then they get like, what are you talking about? I thought we were talking about. And then you have conflict. You have a disagreement on the strategy or execution. Maybe you're planning something or you're trying to solve something with a family or friend, and you have total disagreement on how you're going to get this done, how we're going to get this situation resolved, or how we're going to plan an event. We're doing a baby shower. We're planning a bachelor party. We're doing whatever we're doing, and we just can't get around. So these are some examples of expectation causes of conflict. Now let's talk about personality, because this is really where it really is. So we all have different personalities, and we all have unique personalities. I always told the youth, and now I'm telling adults because I work with adults more, that you're as unique as the fingerprints on your hand. There's nobody on earth like you. And I believe there's nobody on earth like you, period. I don't care. I mentioned Kathy. I saw my Aunt Linda come up. I don't care where you're born. I don't care if you're even of the same blood. You are an individual. You have a specific purpose, and it is individualized, just like your fingerprints. And like that, you have a unique personality. You have your own DNA. Even though you're a combination maybe of your parents, there is parts of that aren't your parents that makes you unique. And what happens with that, although that's great, now you have online friendships that are really interesting, and you may like to encourage a range of debate, and sometimes your personality gets in the way. And I love talking about things. I love art. I'm a Christian. I love talking about faith. I love talking about all the things you're not. Politics is the one thing I don't really like talking about, but I like talking about 2 out of the 3 things they tell you never talk about politics. Don't talk about art. Don't talk about religion. I like talking about all these things, but the fact is our personalities get in the way and they cause conflict. They cause clashing, right? And we got to get to a point where we accept that. It's okay to have a differing opinion. It's okay. So let's move on to some things that happen. People have different limitations of reading and writing capabilities. Some of your friends might not have the same experiences that you have. Some may not even have the same education you have. So we have to be more careful of how we are writing sometimes and how we are trying to make people understand our point. All right, and how we're responding to others the same way. We have to realize how we're reading into things, and this leads to conflict because people, English wasn't their first language. Here I am, right? I'm writing. I've been told by people smarter than me, my vocabulary is too big. Why do you use these $10 words? Why don't you use a simple word when I'm speaking? And I don't have an answer for that. But this leads to conflict. Okay, and you have to accept that. I got to understand that people aren't like me. People aren't like me in education, or they aren't like me in experience, and then they're not either where I am in emotion or intellect or wherever I am, and I gotta realize my what I'm writing may not be interpreted the right way, and that perception's broken. Okay, another thing is immovable opinions. Have you ever been online with a friend and they decided their personal position of discussion and they're incapable of a flexible conclusion? They cannot be flexible. That's immovable. I'm done with that. I'm done with this situation. I'm done with you. I am never going to talk to you again. I'm going to unfriend you. They are like, that opinion was so unmovable, they kick you to the curb and you're like, what did I just say? You don't even know what you said, maybe. So people have immovable opinions. We don't want to do that because relationship is the main thing. We want to create relationship. We want to foster relationship. We want to develop relationship. We do not want to be immovable. We don't want to be inflexible. We want to have flexible conclusions, right? We want people to help us to understand what is going on. I'm only 59, and there's people that are still helping me understand about life. Well, how's that possible? I'm 59. Shouldn't I have arrived? We're still learning. We're always still learning. We're always still growing. Another thing is, I talked about this a little bit earlier, in articulation of differing values. Some folks can't articulate what they want to really say. They can't get it. They cannot put it into writing. It's almost pure emotion, and it results in not being clear enough, and it breaks down in productive discussion. And then you're like confused, and now you're like, what were you talking about? I don't know what you're talking. I don't get this. And then you get frustrated because this person can't articulate what they're trying to say. And then you're like out here on the side, like, what were they saying? I don't even know what they were saying. So you want to try to understand that I gotta try to work through it. We also don't want to be dismissive. Don't have dismissiveness where you're patronizing people. Have you ever experienced people patronizing you, demeaning you, giving you condescending language when you're just talking about a simple discussion and they're acting like you don't even know what you're talking about? Does that frustrate you? Are you ready to like, that's it, I'm done with you. I'm dismissed, I'm done. And then you don't want to be dismissed by people. You don't want to dismiss people. No physical, I talked about this earlier, there's no physical communication cues. You know, Frank Moser's on. Frank Moser and I were on the boat. He and I were different people. We were smaller, bigger. I didn't remember. I ran into the guy where I worked. But when Frank and I were together, we had great verbal, visual cues. But if I don't have those, I have problems identifying what the tone of this conversation. What's the mood? Are you frustrated? Are you happy? Are you angry? Do you not like what I'm saying? Was that encouraging? You know, we find this all the time where we're reacting to something that's not ever there. There was no anger there. There was no frustration with us, but we don't see the physical clues and the cues, I should say, and we get off on some tangent, maybe because we don't get it, or they do. Impersonality of the medium. People lose their inhibitions and say things they would never say face to face. There's an impersonality. So say you're really introverted and you're trying to talk to this young man or young woman and you're really like, man, I really love them and I'm smitten with them, and you're like saying things you'd never say in person. Why is this an issue? I mean, really, is that okay to be not who you really are? You're like God's gift to womankind. Like, am I that? I mean, when I'm behind this keyboard, you know, I'm in a chat room. I can embellish my life. I can exaggerate. I can be all kinds of things to all people, right? That I'm going to try to man, I'm just going to, Have you experienced that where you find out these people aren't really who they are, and they're you get together with them and they're not who they say they are. You know, if you watch Cyrano de Bergerac, when they made a modern update with Steve Martin, where he was writing poetry for the handsome guy who couldn't even speak, and Daryl Hannah's like getting smitten by these words, right? And Steve Martin's got this big nose, just like Cyrano. And, the impersonality of the medium. This was in real life. He's feeding them lines from the dark, and this guy's like Romeo and Juliet speaking up to the window. That's what I'm talking about. Except this time you're doing it here. Nobody can see me like you're seeing me now. Nobody knows what I'm thinking. I'm sitting there doing like mental gymnastics to impress you on whatever topic. The reality, it's not real. Another thing is misinterpreted silences due to time changes, equipment failure. Another person interacts a lot slower than you do. I used to play Scrabble with some people or chess with people online, and you'd make your move and you have to wait like days. And the rule was you had to make a move in a day. It's the same thing, except for this time you're trying to communicate with people. And I know my kids get crazy because I get to work and I have no signal. They're like, send me something, and I'll be like 2 hours later, and they'll be like, what? I don't remember what I was talking about. But what happens is when you're having a discussion about something important, those long delays between responses really blow an issue out of proportion for some people, and it results in frustration and overreaction too. You want to just relax. Try to be kind to people. Try to understand that things aren't always what you want them to be for their equipment and for them. Maybe they're in. Like my wife's family's in England. I have to wait sometimes. And then I get yelled at for calling my mother-in-law or texting my mother after 5. Why? Because it's after 10. So I get yelled at. You know, Greenwich Mean Time, it should be in my brain. It's I'm like, oh, I was just reaching out to your sister, Joanne, but it's 10 o'clock at night, Joanne. I know you're still in the car driving home from work. So you have to realize time differences can cause this. And the last of this section is perceptions of public versus private spaces online. Some of us have different understanding of when should I type out in the open, and when should I go private. Now both of them have a purpose, right? So if I type if I'm going to type to a woman, and I'm going to be flirty, and I'm married, by the way, and I'm going to do that behind the wall, then that isn't good, is it? But then again, if I'm concerned about the person's health and I don't want anybody to know out on the web, then I'm going to go behind the wall and do that. How are you doing? Are you feeling okay? Because why? Because I don't want to rake their public things right over the thing. On the other hand, use of public things, there's certain things, if I'm going to argue about anything that I feel is sensitive, if someone wants to argue with me about anything, I go behind the wall immediately. I won't do it out in the open. I can't do that. I can't do it. I don't, you know what? Because I don't know where it's going to go. I have no problem talking about any topic with any of you. If you want to do it, you call me on the phone, you can text me, I'll do it. But I won't argue certain things out in the open. I just can't. Because why? Because I respect everyone too much, and it's not a good place to do it. So that perception of your perception of what should you have out in the open versus what you should do in private might be different than the other person's. I just given you a great bird's eye view of mine, but maybe yours is different, and it's okay. It's okay if we're different. Again, none of this is cut in stone. This is just Jim expanding. Okay, Jim espousing. All right, another topic is emotional causes of conflict. Over time, underlying emotional issues develop between you and your friends. And it's going to affect how you communicate. Historical problems, maybe there was something way in the past, a previous argument affects you, and it affects your today's interaction. It's not really real. It just affects you now. But it was bad back then, you know? It was bad back then. And now you're letting it affect your simple conversation today. Another one is prejudice. If you have personal prejudice at play, you're going to butt heads on your online relationships. And I'm not talking about color either. It could be any kind of prejudice. If you're carrying something that someone can't see, that's an emotional cause of conflict, and it's going to affect it's going to cause you to butt heads with people. Maybe you feel like you've had some sort of injustice. One friend complaining, I've been persecuted by another friend, and perhaps you've been persecuted by another friend, and next thing you know, you got this perception of injustice, and now you're having a little bit of conflict with several people or one person. And the last thing in this section of emotional causes of conflict is power. There are people and there are cliques developed amongst your friends, and they are vying to bully and act superior to everyone else. And that hurts bad, doesn't it? When people are doing that, right? It hurts bad. So by no means was this an exhaustive list. There are many elements of conflict I probably didn't cover. There could be jealousy. There could be revenge. There's people that want to abuse other people. There's rudeness. There's a victim complex. It's always why I'm always the victim. There's a lack of trust. There's passive aggressiveness, and a lot of us do exercise that. I know I do. And some people just simply always have to be right. They always got to be right. So social media can really blow up your world from the beginning and trying to maintain an ending relationship. So if you're trying to maintain a relationship, social media, because of these reasons. Now, and does anybody else have anything I didn't capture? You're saying, Jim, I wish you would have talked about X, because I covered a lot of different weird things here before I go on to the next section. I'm giving time today, so even on Facebook Live, because people they're typing. Remember we talked about, what was that? Slow technology. You have to wait back here. Slow technology. Maybe the technology is a little slow. Okay. All right, we'll move on just for the sake of the hour. So I'm I'm aged, and please don't judge me when I talk about it. I'm aged. I've married out of the dating pool in the 80s. So kind of a long time ago. How many of you had the discovery of instant messenger and chat rooms when you're trying to create a romantic relationship, right? What a miracle it must be to interact with the opposite sex in a chat room. I didn't have that advantage. I wrote letters to Joanne when I was in the Navy. I met her in the Navy, and she was in South Jersey, and I'm up in Connecticut. So, I mean, phone calls cost money, all right? So, I mean, do you use Instant Messenger like this? Instant Messenger provides that way to connect to somebody through sheer wit words at any amount of minutes. And it removes that awkward, kind of painful real life, right? And face-to-face interactions, right? So, yeah, exactly, Roberta. Yeah, everything. Yeah, exactly. She wrote intentions, motivate. Yeah, where we find ourselves like being misconstrued, misunderstood, or even though we're being like really cool and witty, and or we start an excuse for the conversation. We want to start like, hey, I type, hey, that's kind of like the lean, hey, except you're doing it on instant messenger, and you don't have to worry about your facial expression. You don't even have to worry about the lean. You don't have to worry about food in your teeth. You don't have to worry about your voice, like you hear my squeaky voice. You don't have to worry about even the palpitations of your heart. I think back to high school when I was a freshman, and there was a young woman I had met over the summer between my 8th grade and freshman year, and she was transferred in, and we had a great summer. Ironically, we get to high school, I see her, I can't even talk to her. I just talked to her all summer. I can't talk to the girl. It was weird. That same thing, face to face. Now it's in a school setting. Now she's surrounded by all these people I don't know. So if someone doesn't respond to you when you say, hey, you could just assume they were busy or they're not comfortable, right? But if you're in person, now you're getting the rolling of eyes. They walk away from you in person. It's very uncomfortable. But online, you could chat late in the night to somebody. You could close down places. You could talk about everything from stories about your childhood. You can talk about your insecurities, your plans, your lots of LOLs, and you could see them in the dining hall and say nothing. Like I just talked about Lori. That's her name, by the way, in case she's on. You could talk again the next night, and again, never acknowledge a relationship outside the I am window or the computer. Can you relate to that at all? Those of you who are younger, those of you who are maybe younger at heart and still back in the game of dating, right? So it's a real thing. And I feel, by the way, and this is a freebie, I don't have this prepared, I feel in many ways it stunts your ability to have a healthy in-person relationship, because I am really good at typing. I can type faster. I can think and type fast, right? But how is that healthy when I'm with somebody? If I'm trying to suss them out or feel them out and try to figure out, is this a thing to pursue? Is this a person I might want to spend the rest of my life with? Is this a person that responds to my feelings? How can I do that online? It's kind of hard, right? So back to the relationships and online dating, the dawn of internet relationships also had the dawn of online dating, right? It's changed the way we begin, maintain, and end relationships. I've heard people, before we get into online dating, having people break up with them, break up their engagements, break up their boyfriend and girlfriend status online. I can't imagine getting a text saying it's over. That's worse than a Dear John letter. At least they had to put a piece of paper in an envelope. They had to put a stamp on it and write it. But no, it's changed everything, right? I thought somebody was going to say something. All right, so So now we're initiating relationships with online dating websites, and it's a normal thing. How many people, if you know somebody who has actually, I'm not going to just say dated online, they've actually married somebody they met through online mechanisms, right? How many? Quite a few, right? I remember a gentleman I was on the streets with, down in Connecticut. He met his wife in a letter, back in the 80s. Now we're talking about somebody could be in another country, and they come here, from Australia, from the Philippines, from somewhere in the old Soviet Union, from Russia. I mean, it's Czechoslovakia. It's crazy, and you get to know people, and the next thing you know, they're married, and it removes all the social challenges, and it removes how to manage how people view you. So by the time they get to know, by the time you meet them, it has removed what in your mind a risk of rejection, and they really know what you wanted them to know about your personality. Now, if you're really honest, like you're really transparent, then maybe they really know who you are, or maybe what you presented isn't really who you are at all. And then you finally meet them, and then hi Elizabeth, then you meet them, and it's like, this is not the person I didn't know. Who are you? You're not the person I've been talking with, right? And you manufacture and you make this construction of who you are, and you give a false sense of intimacy and even a perpetual view of security. And you might have a lot of insecurities, and you might have a lot of social anxiety, but you presented this false sense of intimacy with this person, and then you finally meet them, and that internet self is far opposed to the self you are, the unfiltered real self, the real-time person that you finally meet, and I mean meet, right? And it gets very uncomfortable. And overall, people, we all have some anxiety. I talked about me, we all have some anxiety with meeting somebody online, in person. And some of us find a comfort in doing electronically, but eventually that we have to consider, how is that going to translate into the real world? How is your meeting somebody in a romantic sense going to translate? And you need to start asking yourself that question. And there's hundreds of dating apps on the market. I can't pick my phone up because I'm using it for Facebook Live, but there's hundreds of dating apps. And all I'm saying, I should say, what is the positive use of social media for lives and context of these kind of relationships, right? In the end, whether it's dating, whether it's friendship, what's the positive thing? Here's my list. I would like to hear from you. Here's my positive list, because I've said some negative things. Long distance encouragement of family and friends. I think that is extremely positive. I've given you a lot of negative things, right? I love the fact that I can reach out to people. I love the fact that I can call my wife's family on WhatsApp for $0, right? That's an app. I just hit the dial and I'm talking to my wife's family. And we text all the time. Like all the time. It has helped the family. And there's people that I've been able to reunite with and connect with, that I grew up with, that this medium has created a way of giving me what I want to do. I want to encourage them. I want to care about them. I want to know that they know I love them. And what's better than that with our family and friends that aren't close? If you're like me and you're a transplant, I need this. Now, you may not need it. My brother doesn't need this. He's not on any social media. He doesn't need this. But I need this. I'm wired up to do what I'm talking about. Secondly, quick check on a person's health or situation. So I happen to go to a lot of churches. I visit a lot of people. I've been in ICU. I've been in terrible situations. And then again, I've been in hospitals with people who rallied. And what's the first thing? I am getting an email. I am getting a text message. I'm on a car driving home, and I am rerouted. And then I can reach out to people, whether they're local, whether they're distance. We need to realize that there's positive things. I've listed a lot of negative things. You might want to wish somebody a happy anniversary, a happy birthday. Maybe you're the only person that's saying that to them. I know it's sad, okay? But some people are lonely. Some people are in situations that are shut-ins. And believe it or not, you are giving them such encouragement by saying happy anniversary. Maybe their husband passed away 10 years ago, and you are the person that celebrates them with that person. They're sitting alone at home, and they're hurting. I always tell people grieving has no timetable, right? But you get online and you're telling them how awesome that person was and how it's great to celebrate their life. Or you're just saying happy birthday. I don't do very well at this because life catches up with me, but I try to do this. I'm usually a couple days behind a lot, but I do try to do it because I want to encourage people whatever way I can. All right, and the last line I have before I get to the last section of this night of the positive things I think, practicing the act of loving your neighbor as yourself, no matter their culture, no matter their orientation, and no matter what their beliefs are. You're called to do it. You're supposed to be doing it. You know, you're supposed to be loving your neighbor as yourself. It's a pretty good mandate, by the way. And this medium allows you to practice that, sometimes in real time. And I can reach back over miles to do it. I can reach back over hundreds of miles. I can reach over thousands of miles to love my neighbor. Because, by the way, I was in the Navy, and you can't tell me I don't love my brothers. You know, and they're all over the country. Some of them are outside the country. I have one guy who's in Guam. I want to love on him, right? I have neighbors that are right here in New England, and I'm constantly reaching out. I'm texting them. I'm making sure they're okay. And I'm using Facebook, and I'm using other social media. You want to practice that act of loving your neighbor. And you want to look beyond, and I talked about this earlier, any prejudice. You want to get beyond any prejudice. You want to get beyond any lofty sticking your nose up at people. You want to get beyond all that and care about people no matter what. Because why? You're called to do it. Who is your neighbor? Who is my neighbor? That's a classic question. It's in the Word of God, by the way. You want to love people. Love them. And you never let go of them. Ever. So any comments on that before I go on? You guys are quieter tonight than last week. It's kind of scaring me. All right, 8 things we need to do more on social media. 8 things. Is this you? I'm terrified that because of social media, the entire world can see my words. It means I can hurt more than just the people in front of me every time I choose to not live like Jesus. You know, what I've come to discover, many people don't realize this cost. We still treat social media as an exemption from being responsible for our words and actions. You cannot go out and hurt people. You're not equipped to go out and hurt people. You cannot do it. We need to get over that power that makes us feel that we can say whatever we want, and instead embrace the power that we can encourage and build somebody up. Embrace that power. Stop trying to hurt people, you know, with your words. I don't care that they don't agree with your politics. Get out of the business trying to hurt people. You know, when you use social media for positive change, something in the honoring the life of Jesus, or honoring the life of your strong belief in God, rather than shame it, you're going to change the world through this thing, and not just push people away from you. It's time to live and love like Jesus would on social media. I know that sounds weird since he didn't have social media, but it's time to start living and loving like he would, and possibly glorify God with your social media activity. Is that possible? I think it is. Here's a thought for helping you. So these are scripture. I'm going to give you 3 quick scriptures and see if they apply to social media. I am all things to all people that some might be saved. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. Paul states this after covering all kinds of culture, etc., to address it. He is literally saying he becomes all things. I'm asking you to do that so you can have the share of the blessings. Do it. Love people. Love people. Secondly, God is love. If we truly love God, we need to love people. Why don't you do that here? Lastly, I already mentioned this. Jesus told us to love our neighbors as ourselves. We need to get in the game here. All right, get in the game. All right, number 1, strive for connection, not attention. These are the 8 things you need to do more. Strive for connection, not attention. There's 2 kinds of social media user. One who wants a look at me attitude. You don't want to look at me attitude. You want to be the one who says, let's connect. Social media was made for the latter. It's not a look at me thing. Don't make it that. Don't make it look at me. Make it, I want to connect to you. This doesn't mean you have to share everything with everybody online. Okay? It just means you shouldn't use likes and comments as a validation of yourself. Aim to connect instead. Number 2, be transparent, but not too transparent. Jesus revealed information to his disciples, but he didn't reveal it to everybody. Okay? This means we should strive to be transparent with those who love us and gather around us in real life. I believe, for me, my transparency gets a lot more use in the private side than it does in the public side. Okay? Social media opens up your lives to the entire world. Remember that. The entire world doesn't need to know everything about you. But be transparent with your friends that you have all the time. And there are people online that I am transparent with, that I don't see but every once in a while. I'm transparent with them because I know they care about me and I know they have my back and I can trust them. But I'm telling you now, that isn't always a good practice. Right? And don't argue about the faith out and open like that. You know, if you're arguing about your faith out in the open, then that doesn't do anybody any good. That's a freebie. All right. Ask yourself, could I do the same thing in front of someone? Social media distances us from the impact of our words. Keep an eye on your words. We could say things and we could walk away, you know, but on the keyboard, we say things and we're blind to how people are really reacting to them. Keep that in mind. Know that you don't see the impact of your words on a keyboard, but you do in real life. If you couldn't say that to that person right in front of you, it might be a good idea to restrain yourself and not say it. Don't buy into the say what needs to be said culture. Our social media, right, says saying what needs to be said. But then everyone's doing this. It's hard to filter what actually needs to be said. That's my opinion to that. It's a better way to get across the message, to say what needs to be said, but do that in real life. If you have somebody you're trying to love on and you want to kind of get them back on track, maybe social media isn't the best media. And certainly don't do it out in the open. This culture of say what needs to be said, that's not godly. That's not caring about people. You know? This is what Jesus did. He gave the Sermon on the Mount, then immediately began healing people. He began feeding people. A message is better communicated when it's not only said, but it's lived. If you're not willing to back up your words with your life, then don't get in the game. Stay out of the game. Stay out of the game. Don't be correcting people if you're not going to stay in and help through this whole thing. But don't do it online. If you have to communicate with somebody online, maybe get behind a wall or call them on the phone. But don't say stuff out loud. It's just not good fundamentals. And it's not practical. Learn to listen better. I said this down. I don't know if Kathy's still. I said this in the church in New Jersey. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You know why? Because we need to listen twice as much, right? And when you see a status you don't agree with, you really, I'm really angry. You don't have to pepper them with comments, you know, because what happens is it disables them listening to you in real life. You know, we have to learn to listen. Try to understand where they're coming from. Try to scroll down and look at some of the things they're doing, some of the discussions they're having online before you get out of control. By the way, you notice I said before you get out of control. Don't stop voicing your opinion and digest what you're reading. You know, offer a thoughtful response if you've been listening and you've been long participating in these people's lives. You don't need to be nailing people to a wall because you don't like a simple statement they just made, right? Avoid stirring the pot with articles you share. Many Christians, we love to stir the pot. we love to like copy and paste an article in someone's page. We don't even talk about what we think. We copy and paste. Oh, I don't like I don't even know what you're thinking. I don't even like what you're thinking. So I'm gonna get this article. I'm not even gonna talk to you. I'm just gonna paste this article on your page. Maybe I should get to know them better and try to understand their ideology, and then we can start interacting and avoiding running into the danger of making my beliefs purely about arguing. Right? Is that what my beliefs are, about arguing? Is it arguing opinions? Is that what I believe? I'm here to argue my opinions. No, I want to live godly, and I don't want to send bad messages to unbelievers. I want to care about people, right? So don't stir the pot on people to show just how sanctimonious and how sanctified you are, right? You need to learn to love them first, like Christ, and then you guys can start sharing and talking about things and talking about ideology. But you want to creep up to that. You don't want to just go online and start slapping articles on their pages. I don't know what you think. It's and by the way, I'm not. It's the same thing. I think if you're posting political stuff, go ahead. I'm not telling you not to do that. By the way, I'm just telling you, my response to you should not be trying to like crush your skull, because I don't do it. Get the axe handle of God out and slam you around. That's not. No. Just live and let live here. Okay, you don't need to stir the pot with people just because you don't agree with them and start slamming counter arguments on with articles. Don't do it. Second thing is no racist comments. I know this is obvious. I know. I don't know why I should say it, but apparently I should say it because I've seen it. Just because your friends don't share your color, your culture, your values, your orientation, whatever it happens to be, you don't need to go off on social media about, I'm not going to speak to this friend anymore. I'm not speaking to you anymore because you're X, Y, or Z. And that is this, or that is, we get to avoid that. We can stop perpetuating stereotypes and racial hatred and start loving people and caring about people. Again, I hate to bring up, I don't know who else to bring up. So Jesus goes out and hangs up by a well with a woman who's one of the most hated races by the Jews. Why did he do that? He's hanging out with a woman, that's bad. He's hanging out with these Samaritans, that's bad for a Jew. And he's by himself, that's bad. Why did he do it? Because he cared. And that's what I'm asking you to do. No racist comments. He's not addressing her race. She's addressing her race. You need to be not addressing race or culture or orientation. Just care about people. Avoid being mean to bloggers. So if you're a blogger, I'm becoming a blogger. I didn't know I was going to do that. Don't be mean to people. Social media is not an outlet where you can be mean to others because you don't agree with them. If you don't like a person's art, don't comment. If you don't like the person's poetry, don't say anything. If you don't like the person's article on whatever the topic is, don't say anything. We're supposed to be constructively sharpening each other, right? Always sharpening each other up. We don't need to go off on people, be mean. And blogging is about discussion, right? Since I brought up art's a personal thing, and you're tearing down a person's soul when you condemn their art, right? By the way, I'm like the middle art person in my house. My mother was an amazing artist. I have children, they're amazing artists. And I don't know if Kathy's still on. Kathy and I took art together, right? I'm in the middle. I'm just an art duffer, if you use the golf term. But I have family, they're amazing. I don't sit there and go around saying, your art's terrible because you didn't do this. You weren't as good as my mom to my children, right? We have to let people become, better. I used the word sharpen earlier. Instead, I rather use the word push them into gentle ways. My mother used to work with me at home. I had art, of course, in school, and she'd work with me at home, and she was being critical. She was trying to get me to do better. That sky, does that sky look good to you? Does that really look like a tree? I can hear her voice. Does that really look like a tree? Well, no, it really doesn't. Well, let me help you. Is that really what the water looks like? You get the point. Just try to help people if they're writing blogs. So in closing, it's dangerous territory. Social media is dangerous, but it's possible to live like Christ in the midst of these complications. I know you can do it. He's in you. He wants you to relinquish a false sense of power that you think you have when you sit behind a keyboard, and start thinking of ways you can pick up the love and character of someone who can shape the world and encourage people and make a difference with your words versus just shredding people. So that's all I have this week. Anybody have any comments? Yes, if you can say. Thank you, Pat. If you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. Just be quiet. Yes. Yeah, no kidding. Just be quiet. You got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. That's very old, by the way. I know it's changed over the years. This is not, you're not empowered. I'm sorry, you're not. I know you think you are, you may think you are, I might think I am. I'm empowered. No, we're not empowered. We're not. Maybe we're empowered to do good things. Not empowered to shred people. We're just not. So hopefully that, in closing, that you just love your neighbor. I'm just asking you to love your neighbors yourself with social media. If you're pursuing a romantic relationship, be real, because sadly or greatly, you're going to have to meet that person one day. You can't maintain a real relationship online. So one day you're going to have to meet that young man or young woman, and you're going to have to be real. That person you've been talking to has to know that you were that person that they were talking to. So be real and just make a difference. Shape your world. The way this is our time. This is our time. There's going to be another time. Our young children, our grandchildren are coming through, and we got to get out of the way eventually. But this is our time to help make differences. So I love you all. Again, I repeat this every week. If you have a need, need someone to talk to, reach out to me. I'll drop my phone number on you in private messaging, and we'll talk. Because I would rather talk to you on the phone if there's a need, and we'll spend time chatting and minister. If you're local, we'll try to figure out a way to get together with you. If you're far off, we'll try to figure something out. But I want to be here for you, and I thank you all for jumping in this week. Next week, overcome the obstacles of entertainment, and that's a little lighter. I know this was a heavier topic. I think heavier because it probably we felt the sting this week. Many of us. I did. I didn't bring up all my examples of my experiences online, but next week we're gonna talk about overcoming obstacles in entertainment and how celebrities try to make you dress, look, wear your hair, and make you think. And that's what we're talking about next week. We'll also talk about some positive, encouraging films. So blessings to you all, and I will see you next week. All right, take care, and thanks for joining me. I was really blessed. Thank you.